ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on.
You ready to whoop that trick? It's Jim Valley. It's Wrestling Observer Live. We're live 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Sundays, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. And Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. You can dial in at 1-800-878-PLAY, which is different from Brian's number during the week. 1-800-878-7529. Jim Valley, the effing king of recovery, back again because of the fans. So I got good news this week. I have been approved by the University of Washington Medical Center to get a kidney transplant. So, yes, which was, kind of difficult. I had to convince them that I could withstand everything, considering what I've been through. So what you need to know is that I'm an A positive blood type. And if you are interested in donating, I have a more important phone number for you to call. And that's 206-598-3627. 206-598-3627. Or go to uw.donorscreen.org. uw.donorscreen.org. You can also find the information on my social media, on Facebook, Twitter, on Instagram. Now, if I don't find a live donor, a cadaver donor can take years. If I can find a live donor match, it could theoretically only take months. Obviously, I'd prefer sooner rather than later. Not getting any younger. University of Washington, very picky about who they greenlight. I'm considered to be a little high risk, but so the sooner the better. 206-598-3627 or uw.donorscreen.org. Do we have wrestling today? Boy, do we ever. Stand by. Lots of stuff handling behind the scenes and on screen. We'll talk about it all coming up next. Wrestling Observer Live.
Hey, Pack Rat.
You're clear.
Network.
It's Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer Live. This week's show, kind of a challenge to put together because a lot of these we covered last week. Vince being back, potential buyers, including Saudi Arabia. We can cover some of those things today, in addition to the staff meeting last night at Smackdown. And guess what? Shocker. I was right. We also had an incredible week of televised wrestling. New Year's Evil, Dynamite, Smackdown, Rampage, all had some memorable matches and moments. The trios match, Gunther and Braun, the street fight, just Robinson. And we all Googled Paul Walter Hauser and went, oh, right, that guy. So we'll cover in-ring, out of the ring, but how about that street fight last night on AEW Rampage? Ruby and Willow and Tay Mello, and Anna JAS looking like the world's toughest Hooters waitresses. I think that was the first time I saw a street fight fought in granny panties. At least I know now what Taylor Swift would wear to a street fight. What I want to know is which hurt worst, the tables, the thumbtacks, or the wedgies? Seriously, though, they are the heels. They are supposed to dress like that, To do a violent match, though, going through tables and thumbtacks with very little cover or protection on your body, that can't be fun. And I give them a lot of respect for that in all seriousness. A hell of a match. And I gotta wonder, how many Tylenol did Ruby Soho take before the match to bleed that much? She looked like a Bobby Heenan wrestling magazine cover. But anyway, we'll get to all of that. But first, let's start with Impact. We don't do that very often. Last night, the Hard to Kill pay-per-view. No titles changed hands. Josh Alexander beat Bully Ray in a full Metal Mayhem match. Impact Tag Team Champions Motor City Machine Guns defeated the major players in the Bullet Club and Ace Austin and Chris Bay. Heath and Rhino to retain in elimination tag team match. Afterwards, Frankie Kazarian came out and announced that he signed a long-term contract with Impact Wrestling. Fans chanted, "Welcome home." Kazarian made his intentions known. He was going to fight to make it to the top. According to people backstage, that's pretty much the story. That thought he had more upward mobility in Impact than he did in AEW. I think AEW thought that he left the right way, and if he ever needed, the door still open in AEW. Impact Digital Media Champion Joe Hendry defeated Moose to retain, and Moose grabbed the title on the floor, went to attack Hendry with it. The referee took it away, and then Moose low-blowed Hendry. Hit the spear for the pinfall, and then some wacky music hit. And Santino Marella came out, and he said that he's the new director of authority in Impact Wrestling. Santino called Moose a cheating son of a gun and restarted the match to Moose's chagrin. And not long after the bell rang, Joe Hendry was able to hit the standing ovation for a pinfall, retaining the title. Masha Slamovich defeated Deonna Purrazzo, Taylor Wilde, and Killer Kelly in a four-way to become the #1 contender for the Impact Knockouts title. Steve Macklin defeated Rich Swann in a Falls Count Anywhere match started backstage when Macklin attacked Swan during an interview. Eddie Edwards defeated Jonathan Gresham. Just a hard-hitting match. Edwards hit a Tiger Driver, then the Boston Knee Party for the win. And then in the main event, Mickie James defeated Jordan Grace to retain the Impact Knockouts title in a title versus career match. Grace driving James headfirst into the turnbuckle from a fireman's carry, but James grabbed the ropes, pulled off before sending Grace crashing into the ring post after a corner charge. James followed up with a tornado DDT, scored the pinfall, and Mickey's family, minus Nick Aldis, came out to celebrate as the show went off the air. A nice finish, a beautiful, happy ending to the end. But it's interesting that Santino Marella came out using his WWE ring name, same character, and graphic had a cobra in it. So one would think that he could use the cobra to someday in the future in Impact Wrestling. And obviously he must be in good terms with WWE if he's using all of those things that used to be or still are WWE IP. And I'll tell you what, Santino Marella has shown great comic instincts over the years. And he saved so many bad segments in WWE with his comedic timing and ability. I think he's a welcome addition. And obviously, with his daughter still in WWE NXT, there's obviously a connection there. Impact returns to pay-per-view Sunday, April 16th in Toronto, Canada. That should be a very hot show given that it's in Toronto. WWE had a talent meeting Friday at Smackdown before the show. Triple H said that Vince is going to focus on the sale. But it's always a but. He did admit that he and Vince talk about the creative direction, but that he, Triple H, has final say. What did I say last week? I said there was no way that Vince didn't weigh in on the creative direction of the company. And what was confirmed? That Vince has his hand in creative. Just like I told you. Do I have backstage information? No. But I mean, come on. Vince, of course, is going to talk to his son-in-law. And Vince, of course, is going to have his hand in creative because he's Vince and he can't help himself. It's just what he does. I mean, come on. It's a given that is what would happen. And it's going to be interesting when the Raw 30th anniversary show happens. Of course, we're going to see things that are Vince influenced. How could we not? I think we're going to see some backstage skits, some Vince humor, lots of wacky things happening, dancing, fart humor, excrement, all that stuff that has made Raw. But of course, we're going to see this. But I'll tell you what, when we come back, I don't know that Vince has made the right decision, but I'll tell you what, I do give him a lot of credit for one decision in particular. And we'll talk about that next, coming up. It's Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer Live.
We're live on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
Wrestling Observer Live, Jim Valley, here on Saturday. And I do want to say this about Vince McMahon. If you listen to this show, you can probably pick up on a recurring theme: accountability. And I personally feel, just generally speaking, there are too many trust fund kids born on home base who are anointed to lead companies and other entities when they have no experience or acumen or ability to do so. And I'm not saying Shane or Steph are or are not qualified, but I do give Vince credit. Obviously, for whatever reason, he's not happy with his children, and he's not turning over the keys to the kingdom to them. Not saying he's right or he's wrong, but I am impressed that in his mind, at least in his mind, he's doing what's best for business first. And I wish that there were more people like that in the world. And we'll see how it all plays out. But it's just very interesting. All the succession in the board and things. I know was it Tuesday? Social media was abuzz about maybe the potential sale to the Saudi fund and sports washing. Vince selling to the Saudis, going private, and then taking control back. And certainly it's a possibility. Who knows? Maybe it's a long shot. However, it's still, maybe it's something that was floated. There's a way to entice other entities to step up to the plate and put forth a better bid to win WWE or keep them wherever they may be. Maybe it was something like that. I don't know that it was, but things like that often happen in business, playing hard to get. And I think we'll see more stories, I think, floated in the future. But, as far as people going, oh, that could never happen, I will say this: Disco Inferno had a very valid tweet this week talking about video games. The Saudis own a percentage of Nintendo. They own Capcom and some other video game companies. All you need to do today, when something outrageous happens, is to just stonewall. And eventually, if you can outlast the outrage, everything will be fine. You see that with that George Santos congressman who lied about everything. There's outrage at home, but in Congress, as long as he's voting with the right people, he can avoid the press, stonewall the press. That's just what you do. When things are outrageous, you just stonewall. And I think even if the Saudis were to buy WWE, the move always, you just stonewall. We've seen it a million times in public life, and I wouldn't be surprised if we'll see that yet again. Darby Allin defeated Juice Robinson to retain the TNT title on AEW Rampage. Kind of a surprise. Juice Robinson's first major match, and he loses. Robinson tried a superplex, but Allin countered midair to a scorpion death drop, then a coffin drop for the win. Post-match, Sting made his way to the ring to celebrate as Excalibur plugged Sting and Darby, teaming with the Great Muta in the last match in makeup. Not KJ Muto's last match, but the last match for the Great Muta character. Coming up next week in Noah, in Japan. And on Wednesday, Darby faces Kushida on TNT, in a TNT title match, actually a TBS. TNT title match Wednesday on TBS on Dynamite. It's very interesting. I know some people don't like how, random people show up on AEW, but to me, I kind of like it. It's kind of fun, but maybe it's because I'm old. I don't know. Did a segment, Powerhouse Hobbs, holding up the Book of Hobbs, Phoenixes, and all of that. We'll see where this all goes with the Book of Hobbs. It's interesting because it's a small book. Obviously the I don't know. They're making illusions that it's sort of a Bible type of book. But I mean, it's not like a book you can use as a weapon. It's kind of a soft hardcover book as opposed to something you could hit somebody with, which is interesting. We'll see if the Book of Hobbs evolves into something more substantial as time goes on. The Acclaim came out. Now, they talked about being on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which everyone knows you get a star. But instead, they were putting their hands in what looked like a sandbox of gray epoxy, sort of more like man's Chinese theater, and you can see where this is going. The Acclaim and Daddy Ass were about to put their scissor hands into the fake cement when the Ass Boys came out, and they sort of circled around, back to the Acclaim and Billy Gunn down, and they turned their backs to the camera, put their hands in the cement, and as that was happening, the Acclaim pantsed them, and they had little skivvies on. They were embarrassed. They turned around, showing their shocked faces, and the Acclaim shoved them butt first into the fake cement, and even make an imprint, which made you think it was like silly putty or an epoxy of some kind, but you get the idea. It was a new twist on the birthday cake spot. It was very fun. Renee Paquette backstage with Mogul affiliates. As Swerve said, 2023, they're going to be the most violent group ever to come out of AEW. Also, they had some guys from Bad Boy Entertainment, and I believe Swerve legit is signed to Bad Boy Entertainment. I know that, Swerve did a concert after last week's Dynamite in Seattle. Not that well attended. Then I think it was Thursday, Max Caster did a show at a club in Portland. Again, from what I was told, like 15 people showed up. He came out, hooked up his iPod into the sound system, did like 5 songs. I think Swerve did the same thing, a couple of songs, and then blew out. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about that, but just not a overwhelming demand yet for the raps. We shall see though as time goes on. Kings of the Throne, Malachi Black, Brody King defeated A. Kingston and Ortiz. More disagreements and confusion on the part of Kingston and Ortiz. Ortiz ducked a black mass. Kingston took the bullet as Ortiz was knocked outside, and Black pinned Kingston. Post-match, Black told Ortiz he did good as they threw him back into his partner. And again, see where this is going. Lexi Nair backstage with TBS champ Jade Cargill and Layla Gray. Cargill says she has bigger things to worry about than Red Velvet. She's more concerned about who will be her 50th win in AEW. And Gray said, Velva's out and she is in. Kind of a cool thing. A little while ago, Gray tweeted that she was a waitress working at what are they? The one restaurant, the Scottish one where they wear the mountain range. I forget which one it was, but not Hooters, but the other one. Anyway, she talked about how she got hired and now she doesn't have to work there anymore. No shame at all in working there, but good for Layla Gray. Coming up, we'll talk about the rest of Rampage and a very good Smackdown coming up next. Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer Live.
You're clear.
Next. Wrestling Observer Live, Saturday. It's Jim Valley. Well, great Rampage. So next segment, Renee is in the ring with Golden Globe Award winner. Won it this week, Paul Walter Hauser, who has his Best Supporting Actor trophy with him. And Hauser mentioned that he referenced getting the tables in his acceptance speech, and he loves and respects professional wrestling, and says he always bypasses Connecticut and goes to Jacksonville, as you never know what's going to happen in AEW, which is basically code for, well, Danhausen interrupts, says he's the top seller of merchandise, but was never given a physical award, so he wants the Golden Globe. Then Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, Sanjay Dutt, Saddam Singh all interrupt as Hauser questions how many people are going to come out. It's very funny. Hauser had great comedic timing, some great lines. Told Jarrett that this isn't Memphis, and he looks like a woman who owns a Crunch Fitness. Says that Jarrett walks around with a guitar that he's never played, and the rest of the crew look like they're dressed for a homeschool prom. Great lines, very funny. Lethal knocks Hauser down. They grab him, hit him over the head with the guitar. Lethal steals the Golden Globe, getting ready to hit Danhausen. Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends make the save. Jarrett and his crew hightail it. Hauser left motionless. Lethal and Dutt steal the Golden Globe. Next up, the main event. Ruby Soho, Will and the Nightingale come out dressed in camo and tank tops. They defeated Ty Mello, and Anna Jay, AS, in a street fight. They attacked him from behind with hockey sticks that were garbage cans, kendo sticks, tables, chairs, and thumbtacks. Ruby Soho bled a gusher. Nightingale and Jay battled up the ramp as Nightingale blocked a super kick and hit a power bomb off the stage through a table, but only Nightingale went through the table. Anna Jay landed just smack on the floor, and that was pretty brutal. Soho and Mello fought on the apron. Mello hit a Gotch-style pile driver off the apron through another table. Mello grabbed a bag of thumbtacks and wanted a second pile driver, but Soho put her own hand in the tacks, threw them in Mello's face. Soho drove Mello into the chair and in the corner, and then hit the destination unknown into the tacks for the win. Very bloody, very violent match. It was good. I don't know about you, but I could go without not seeing tags anymore. I think I've pretty much had my fill of tags, but they'll always be around. AEW on Dynamite's going to be Danielson taking on Bandito, Jake Hager and Ricky Starks. Hangman Adam Page talks with Renee. The Young Bucks face Top Flight. Orange Cassidy defends the All-Atlantic title against Jay Lethal. And Darby Allin defends the TNT title against Kushida. Smackdown last night, very good. Opens up Intercontinental Champion Gunther defeated Braun Strowman to retain the Intercontinental title. Now you'd think Imperium would interfere and help Gunther beat Braun, but no. The story was Gunther wore down Braun's injured shoulder, I should say. They had good back and forth, a big man match. Gunther avoided the monster bomb. He then rocked Strowman with another clothesline. Gunther hit a top rope splash for another close near fall. Gunther and Strowman fought to the top rope. Gunther rocked Strowman with a chop, slipped out, hit a powerbomb for the win. Great win for Gunther. Took a lot to beat Strowman. Impressive. Sami Zayn backstage knocked on the Bloodline locker room, and Paul Heyman came out, stepped out to greet Sami, told him that nobody was here tonight, and that Reigns, because he loves Sami so much, wants him to beat Owens without any help. Zayn agreed, told Heyman to tell Reigns that he made the right choice, and he vowed to solve the KO problem. He says, that's not a prediction. That's a spoiler. And it was again another long-term thread that went all the way through SmackDown. And that's a really good thing when they're able to do that, I personally think. Rey Mysterio segment came out, talked about Dominic, walking around like a thug, his words. Says he's fed up with his son, but he's not going to let Dominic distract him anymore. He announced he's going to enter the Royal Rumble, get back on track. He promised to win. And then music hits. Karrion Kross and Scarlett interrupted and marched to the ring. Kross mocked Mysterio for winning the Rumble 17 years ago. He assumed it was a special moment for Dominic. Kross claimed Mysterio wouldn't know because he was never there for Dominic. And Mysterio said he heard enough. He attacked Kross, went for the 619. Scarlett grabbed the leg. Kross locked in the cross jacket to end the segment. Does this feel like virtually every Rey Mysterio feud? I don't know. It just kind of feels like it just feels like every feud happens with Rey Mysterio. There's always a bully with Rey. I don't know. It just always feels like very, very much the same, no matter which heel it is. They always kind of bully Rey. Then this segment, locker room, Maxine Dupree and Emma teasing Liv Morgan, second guessing her, wanted to enter the Royal Rumble at number 1. Raquel Rodriguez entered, and even though she was a babyface, she agreed with Emma and Maxine. She thinks that Morgan should enter at number 30 because of her small size. Morgan then said, I got my palm red, showed her the palm, and then slapped her. They're still baby faces, but they challenged Rodriguez to a match. Raquel also announced that not only she accept the match, but she'll be in the Royal Rumble. Tegan Nox defeated Xia Li with the Shiniest Wizard. In a Viking Raiders vignette, Valhalla said that when God speaks, she listens. And when she listens, the Viking Raiders obey. Valhalla mentioned that Sheamus and McIntyre are next. Adam Pearce spoke with McIntyre and Sheamus in his office. They did this thing where they slapped each other in the chest. One wants the titles, one wants the Viking Raiders. McIntyre wants the Raiders. Sheamus wants a title match. Pearce announced a Smackdown tag team tournament with the winners taking on the Usos for the titles. And McIntyre and Sheamus take on the Viking Raiders in a first round match next week. Bray Wyatt segment took forever walking to the ring. The Royal Rumble is going to be his rebirth. Warned LA Knight that when the lights are off in the Mountain Dew match, that he should run. They never said exactly what the Mountain Dew black whatever match is going to be, but I assume it's going to be like one of those hooded matches, which are always terrible. Kayla Braxton tried to interview Kevin Owens, but Sammy interrupted, says that Zayn is upset for Owens putting him in his position. Owens noted that he didn't want any of this. The Bloodline came to Raw and got in his business. But he pointed out that Roman is the one that wanted all of this, and that he's being used. He's using Sammy, but Zayn says he's not being used, that Owens can't stand all of this, and he promises he's going to take care of business tonight. Then backstage, Kayla with Imperium in the training room. Gunther was icing his neck, claimed that today was a glorious day because he beat Braun Strowman. It's time to capitalize, enter and win the Royal Rumble, and main event, WrestleMania. Raquel Rodriguez defeated Liv Morgan. She still smiled. They were kind of rough of each other, but still a babyface match. Backstage, DeVille spoke with Adam Pearce, demanding a rematch. Adam Pearce said no, because she lost last week. Said that if she wanted a rematch, she should win the Royal Rumble. DeVille assured Pearce she would get that rematch. And back from commercial, DeVille and Flair were fighting backstage. Officials tried to break it up, but DeVille kept attacking Flair, and Flair made it clear that she did not start the fight. Great video package recapping Cody Rhodes defeating Seth in the Hell in the Cell despite his injury. He also looked into surgery and Rhodes questioning whether or not he could return. And then in the main event, Kevin Owens defeated Sami Zayn by DQ. Usual great match. And then, no surprise, Zayn set up for the haluva kick when the Usos and Solo Sikoa ran in and beat down Owens for the disqualification. Zayn seemed surprised and not happy. The Usos just beat down Owens, hit the 1D. Sammy again seemed unhappy, even bothered, as the Usos praised him. Sikoa gave Owens a running splash into the commentary table to a massive pop. Zayn posed with the Usos, but he seemed uneasy as they all looked down on Owens with concern. Next week, WWE Undisputed Universal Champion Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens make their Royal Rumble match official with the contract signing, plus Smackdown Tag Team Tournament. Drew McIntyre and Sheamus take on the Viking Raiders in the first round. And in 2 weeks, Rey Mysterio goes one-on-one with Karrion Kross the night before the Royal Rumble. You know, it's going to be interesting. What do all these boardroom moves by Vince mean for WrestleMania? Will this be the last WrestleMania under Vince McMahon ownership or Vince McMahon creative control? I mean, that's the word. To expect a sale first quarter of this year. What does that mean for WrestleMania? But you know, there's another interesting thing to think about that happened on Dynamite this week. We'll talk about that coming up next. Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer Live.
You're clear.
You are listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network.
You know, this week, Dave Meltzer talked about that Hook, Jungle Boy versus Lee Moriarty and Big Bill, was the highest rated segment of the week on AEW Dynamite. And I got to say, I think Big Bill has been showing great charisma and presence. And I think the crowd is responding to that. And considering his issues with addiction and things where he's been so happy that he's a wrestling success story. And I will say that taking that suplex from Hook at his size shows how unselfish he is. And big men in another generation wouldn't do that. And you'd think that if so many people, were expecting Mercedes Moné to make an appearance on Dynamite, you'd think that the women's match would have been a highly rated segment or the highest rated segment. Battle in the Valley has sold out, and granted, here's what already halfway sold out when Mercedes versus Kyrie was announced. Moving around 1,000 or so tickets is something. I mean, it's not nothing, but still, we'll see. I think we still don't know exactly what impact Mercedes Moné is happening. Last week, I compared the whole bank on Moné catchphrase and calling herself the CEO instead of the boss. Kind of compared it to when Ray Traylor came to WCW and called himself the boss instead of, the big boss man. And WWE shut it down very quickly because it kind of infringed on their big boss man trademark. And we'll see just how close to the line Mercedes Moné is allowed. Very interesting times on and off screen on wrestling. So be sure to check back each week with Wrestling Observer Live, and especially here back on Saturdays. Remember, check my social if you're interested in donating a kidney. If you're A+, A positive blood type, could really help me out. So check it out, and I'll be back next week. As always, Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer Live, back because of you, because of the fans.